The Denver transit station hummed with the usual Friday evening chaos, commuters rushing to catch their trains, teenagers scrolling through phones, business people clutching briefcases. Among the blur of movement, Patricia sat against a concrete pillar, invisible to the flood of humanity streaming past. Her weathered hands clutched a cardboard sign, "Anything helps. God bless." Beside her sat a worn duffel bag containing everything she owned, and cradled against her chest was 3-month-old Jasmine, wrapped in a faded pink blanket that had seen better days. Patricia had been living on Denver streets for 8 months now, ever since the factory fire that killed her husband Marcus and left her with nothing, no job, no home, no family willing to take in a widow with a newborn. The system had failed her at every turn. Shelters were full. Assistance programs had waiting lists stretching into next year. She'd sold her wedding ring just to buy formula, but Patricia had one treasure the world hadn't taken yet, her voice. Before Marcus died, before the fire, before everything fell apart, Patricia had sung in the church choir every Sunday. Her mother always said she had a voice that could make angels weep and sinners repent. But that life felt like a distant dream now, buried under the weight of survival. As the evening crowd thickened, a well-dressed woman in her 40s approached. Catherine Reynolds, a talent coordinator for a local performing arts center, was running late for a meeting. She'd taken this route 1,000 times and usually kept her eyes straight ahead, trained to ignore the city's uncomfortable truths. But something made her stop. Maybe it was the baby's cry. Maybe it was the exhaustion etched into Patricia's face. Or maybe it was the way Patricia was softly humming to Jasmine, a melody so hauntingly beautiful it cut through the station's din. "Excuse me," Catherine said, surprising herself. "Your baby is beautiful." Patricia looked up, eyes cautious. Compliments from strangers were rare. "Thank you." Catherine hesitated, then pulled out her wallet. "Here," she placed a $20 bill in Patricia's cup. "God bless you," Patricia whispered. Catherine turned to leave, but something pulled her back. "That song you were humming, what was it?" Patricia glanced down at Jasmine. "Just an old hymn. His Eye is on the Sparrow. My mama used to sing it to me." "Your voice is lovely," Catherine said. "Have you ever sung professionally?" A bitter laugh escaped Patricia's lips. "Once upon a time, I thought about it. But life had other plans." Catherine checked her watch. She was already 15 minutes late. But there was something in Patricia's eyes, a depth of pain mixed with resilience that struck a chord. Would you sing something? Just a verse?" Patricia's eyebrows rose. "Right here. Now? Why not? Consider it a performance for payment already rendered." Catherine smiled gently. Patricia shook her head. I appreciate your kindness, but Jasmine needs to be held. She's fussy this evening, and if I put her down, she'll cry something fierce." Catherine made a decision that would change both their lives. She set down her leather briefcase and extended her hands. "Then let me hold her. You sing." Patricia stared at this stranger offering to hold her most precious possession. Every maternal instinct screamed caution. You don't hand your baby to strangers on the street. But something in Catherine's eyes spoke of genuine compassion, not judgment or pity. "You sure?" Patricia asked. "I raised 3 of my own. I remember how it feels." Catherine's smile was warm and honest. Slowly, carefully, Patricia transferred Jasmine into Catherine's arms. The baby settled immediately, perhaps sensing the practiced confidence of an experienced mother. Patricia stood for the first time in hours, her legs stiff and aching. She rolled her shoulders, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. When she opened her mouth, the world stopped. The first note rang out pure and crystalline, soaring above the mechanical announcements and shuffling feet. Patricia began singing Amazing Grace, but not the way most people knew it. Her voice added runs and inflections that transformed the familiar hymn into something transcendent, pain and hope woven together in perfect harmony. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. A businessman stopped mid-stride, his phone forgotten in his hand. "That saved a wretch like me." A group of teenagers pulled out earbuds, drawn by the raw power of her voice. "I once was lost, but now I'm found." The crowd began to gather, forming a semicircle around this homeless woman who sang like she was pouring out her very soul. Catherine stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as she held Jasmine, who had stopped fussing entirely. "Was blind, but now I see." The station fell silent except for Patricia's voice, echoing off concrete and steel, transforming a cold transit hub into a cathedral. People pulled out phones, but not to scroll, to record. To capture this impossible moment, when Patricia reached the final verse, her voice climbed higher, richer, more powerful than before. She sang about grace that had brought her through dangers and snares, about grace that would lead her home. Every word carried the weight of lived experience, of loss and suffering, of hope that refused to die even in the darkest circumstances. As the last note faded, silence hung in the air like a held breath. Then the applause began. It started with one person, then another, then erupted like thunder. People crowded forward, pulling out wallets, stuffing bills into Patricia's cup. A woman offered her jacket. A man handed her a grocery bag full of food. An elderly couple pressed their business card into her hand, whispering about a church that could help. Catherine stood crying openly now, Jasmine peaceful in her arms. When she finally found her voice, she said, "Patricia, I need to know your story. All of it." Over the next hour, as the crowd gradually dispersed, Patricia told Catherine everything, about Marcus, the fire, the miscarriage of the system, the desperate months on the streets. Catherine listened without interruption, without judgment, occasionally glancing down at Jasmine's sleeping face. When Patricia finished, Catherine said quietly, "I coordinate talent for the Denver Center for the Performing Arts. We have a community showcase coming up in 3 weeks, local artists, community voices, stories that need to be heard. I want you to perform." Patricia laughed, but it was tinged with disbelief. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but look at me. I don't have an address for a contract. I don't have clean clothes for a stage. I don't even have, you have what matters," Catherine interrupted. "You have a gift. And I have resources." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling my sister. She runs a family shelter in Capitol Hill. They have space, private rooms for mothers with infants. While you're there, we'll work on the showcase. Deal?" Patricia felt tears burning in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" Catherine looked down at Jasmine, then back at Patricia. 10 years ago, I was you. Different circumstances, same desperation. Someone gave me a chance when I had nothing left. I've been waiting for the opportunity to pay it forward." She carefully handed Jasmine back to her mother. "Let me make some calls. Don't go anywhere." 3 weeks later, Patricia stood backstage at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts, wearing a simple but elegant dress Catherine had helped her pick out. Jasmine was safely in the arms of Catherine's sister in the front row. Patricia's hands trembled as she listened to the master of ceremonies introduce her story, the homeless mother who sang in a transit station, whose voice had moved thousands online after the videos went viral, and who tonight would share her gift with the world. When she walked onto that stage, the applause was immediate and thunderous. But Patricia's eyes weren't on the crowd. They were closed in prayer, thanking God for grace, for Catherine's kindness, for the shelter's warmth, for the social worker who'd helped her navigate assistance programs, for every person who'd donated to the fund that had been set up in her name. She began to sing Bridge Over Troubled Water, her voice even more powerful in the theater's acoustics. By the second verse, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. By the final note, the audience was on their feet, and Patricia knew with absolute certainty that this was not the end of her story, it was the beginning. I in the front row, Catherine held Jasmine close, tears streaming down her face, marveling at how one moment of compassion could change everything. How holding a stranger's baby had unleashed a voice that needed to be heard, and in that moment, Patricia's voice, once silenced by tragedy and circumstance, rang out as a testament to resilience, to the power of human kindness, and to the truth that sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unlikely packages.